Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We
Waalaikumsalam.
are from group 5 and we would like to explain about naturalistic and ethnographic research. For the first, I would like to introduce myself and my friends. My name is Hardina Octavia and my friends Imelda, Febriana, Tari, Nadilla Aziz, and Dhea Rohma Salsabilla. For the first, material will be explained by me. Elements of naturalistic inquiry. Naturalistic inquiry is an approach to understanding the social world in which the researcher observes, describes, and interprets the experiences and actions of specific people and groups in societal and cultural context. Lecomte and Bressel, 1993, suggests that ethnographic research is a process involving methods in inquiry, in outcome, and a resultant record of the inquiry. The intention of the research is to create as vivid a reconstructions as possible of the culture or groups being studied. Lecomte and Bressel, 1993, indicate several key elements of ethnographic approach. There are phenomenological data are elicited. Second, the worldview of the participants is investigated and represented the definition of the situations. Third, meanings are accorded to phenomena by both the researcher and the participants. The process of research, therefore, is hermeneutic, uncovering meanings. And the fourth, the constructs of the participants are used to structure the investigations. Next, empirical data are gathered in their naturalistic setting, unlike laboratories or in control settings as in other forms of research where variables are manipulated. Next, observational techniques are used extensively for the participant and non-participant to acquire data on real-life settings. And then the research is holistic, that is, it seeks a description and interpretation of social phenomena, and there is a move from description and data to inference, explanations, suggestions of causation, and theory generations. And last, methods are multimodal, and the ethnographer is a methodological omnivore. Hitchcock and Haggis suggest that ethnographics involve the production of descriptive cultural knowledge of a group. Second, the description of activities in relation to a particular cultural context from the point of view of the members of that group themselves. The third, the production of a list of features constitutive of membership in a group or culture. And next, the description and analysis of patterns of social interactions. Next, the provisions as far as possible of insider accounts. And the last is the development of theory. Lecomte and Bressel suggest that ethnographic approaches are concerned more with descriptions rather than predictions, induction rather than deduction, generation rather than verification of theory, constructions rather than enumerations, and subjectivities rather than objective knowledge. Tabor and Kurzweil urge ethnographic approaches to become not only more systematic but to study and address regularities in social behavior and social culture. The task of ethnographers is to balance a commitment to capture the the diversity, variability, creativity, individuality, uniqueness, and spontaneity of social interactions. With a commitment to the task of social science to seek regularities, order, and patterns within such diversity. Spindler put forward several hallmarks of effective ethnographics. First, observations have contextual relevance, both in the immediate setting in which behavior is observed and in further context beyond. Second, hypotheses emerge in situ as the study develops in the observed setting. Third, observation is prolonged and often repetitive. Events and series of events are observed more than once to establish reliability in the observational data. Fourth, inferences from observations and various forms of ethnographic inquiry are used to address insiders' views of reality. Fifth, a major part of the ethnographic task is to elicit socio-cultural knowledge from participants, rendering social behavior comprehensible. Next, instruments, schedules, codes, agenda for interviews, questionnaires, etc. should be generated in situ and should derive from observation and ethnographic inquiry. And last, in order to collect as much live data as possible, any technical device may be used. The advantage of the human instrument is her adaptability, responsiveness, knowledge, ability to handle sensitive matters, ability to see the whole picture, ability to clarify and summarize, to explore, to analyze, to examine atypical or idiosyncratic responses. And the next will be explained by my friend.
Okay, I will explain about planning naturalistic research. Next. Lincoln and Guba set out 10 elements in research design for naturalistic studies. One is determining a focus of the inquiry. Two, determining fit of paradigm to focus. Three, determining the fit of the inquiry paradigm to the substantive theory set to guide the inquiry. 4. Determining where and from whom data will be collected. 5. Determining successive phase of the inquiry. 6. Determining instrumentation. Next. And 7, planning data collection and recording models. 8, planning data analysis procedures. 9, planning the logistic are prior-logistical consideration for the project as a whole. The logistic of field exertion prior to going into the field. Logistic of field execution while in the field. The logistic of activities following field execution. The logistic of closure, the termination. 10. Planning for trustworthiness. Next. This can be set out into a sequential stage approach to planning naturalistic research. And see, for example, Stassman and 1973. Delanmont 1992. Spratly 1979 sets out the stage of A selecting ethnographic hypothesis, writing the A selecting a problem, B collecting cultural data, C analysis cultural data, D formulating ethnographic hypothesis, writing the ethnography more fully. We suggest an 11-stage model. Stage 1, locating a field of study. Lincoln and Guba, 90, 85, suggests an important difference between conversational and naturalistic research design. In the former, the intention is to focus on similarities and to be able to make generalization, whereas in the latter, the objective is informational. To provide such a wealth of detail that the uniqueness and individuality of each case can be represented to the charge that naturalistic inquiry thereby cannot yield generalization because of sampling flaws. The writers argue that this is necessarily trivially true. In a word, it is unimportant. Next. Will be explained by my friend.
The next is critical ethnography. Next. Critical ethnography is a qualitative approach to research that explicitly sets out to critique hegemony, oppression, and asymmetrical power relations in order to foster social change. Karspeken suggests several key premises of critical ethnography. Number one is research and thinking are mediated by power relations. Number two, these power relations are socially and historically located. Number three, fact and values are inseparable. Number four, relationships between objects and concepts are fluid and mediated by the social relation of production. Number five, language is central to perceptions. Number six, certain groups in society exert more power than others. Number seven, inequality and oppression are inherent in capitalist relations of product and consumption. Next. How does the critical ethnography proceed? Karspeken and Apple and Karspeken identify 5 stages in critical ethnography. Stage 1, compiling the primary record through the collection of monological data. Lincoln and Guba suggest that validity checks at this stage will include using multiple devices for recording together with multiple observers, using flexible observation schedules, remaining in the situation for a long time in order to overcome the how-to effect, and using a low inference terminology and descriptions, and using peer debriefing, and the last using respondent validation. Stage 2, preliminary reconstructive analysis. Karspeken suggests that the researchers goes back over the primary record from stage 1 to examine patterns of interaction, power relations, roles, sequence of events, and meanings according to situations. Next. Stage 3, dialogical data collection. Karspeken provides several validity checks. For example, A. Consistency checks on interviews that have been recorded. B. Repeat interviews with participants. C. Matching observation with what participants say is happening or has happened. D. Avoiding leading questions at interview, stringed by asking peer to check this matter. E. Respondent validation, and F. Asking participants to use their own terms. Stage 4, discovering system relations. Karspeken notes that validity checks will include A. Maintaining the validity requirements of the earlier stages. B. Seeking a match between the researcher's analysis and the commentaries that are provided by the participants and other researchers. And C. Using peer debriefers and respondent validation. Next slide. Okay. And the last is stage 5, using system relations to explain findings. As for the stage of ideological criticism that are set in chapter 1, step 1, a description of the existing situation, a hermeneutic exercise. Step 2, penetration of the reasons that brought the situation to the form that it takes. Step 3, an agenda for altering the situation. Step 4, an evaluation of the achievement of the new situations. Next. Okay, the next slide will be explained by my friends.
Okay, the next is computer usage. Next slide. So, according to Lee Camty and Presley in 1993, provide a summary of ways in which information technology can be utilized in supporting ethnographic research. The use of information technology are diverse, as data have to be processed and as word data are laborious to process. And as several powerful packages for data analysis and processing exist, researchers will find it useful to make full use of computing facilities. So this can be used as follow some of the benefits of using technology for ethnographic research. The first is to store and check proofread data, and then to collect and share data and make multiple copies of data. Then to allow memo creation with the style of circumstance in which the memos were written. And number 4 is to perform searches for phrases in data. in the data and to retrieve text. To attach identification label to the unit, like a questionnaire responses, so that subsequent sorting can be undertaken. Then to active the initial data encoding to be performed. To enable preliminary coding of data to be undertaken. Then to resort, collate, classify, and reclassify pieces of data to facilitate constant comparison and to refine schemas of clarification. Then to create a code memo and carry it to the same classification scheme. To assemble and reassemble data into categories. To perform a frequency calculation like a word, phrase, and code. To cross-check data to see if they can be coded into more than one category. To determine the incidence of data that contain more than one category. To retrieve code data segment from subsets in order to compare and contrast data. Then to establish linkage between coding categories. To display category relationship like a hierarchical, temporal, relational, substantive, and superordinate. And the last is to quote data in the final report. Next slide. In this process, Chile in 1995 suggests that computer method can engage. The first is validity by the management of samples, and the second is reliability by retrieving all the data on a given topic, thereby ensuring trustworthiness of the data. Then is some of problems with ethnographic and naturalistic approach. Next slide. There are several difficulties in the ethnographic and natural approach that might affect the reliability and validity of the study. The first is situation. They are maybe falsely confused, unaware of the real situation, deliberately distorting or falsifying information or highly selective. Second is reactivity. The presence of the researcher alters the situation as participants may wish to avoid imprecise direct any influence the research. And number three is the halo effect. Halo effect is citing or given information about the situation or participant might be used to be selective in subsequent data collection or may bring about a particular reading of a subsequent situation. Number four is implicate conservation of interpretive methodology, the kind of research described in this chapter, with the possible exception of critical ethnography. And number five is there is the difficulty focusing on the research participant and maybe research too, being to close the situation that they neglect certain often aspect of it. And number six is the openness and diversity of studied situation that focusing on specific context and situation might offer biases the difference between context and situation rather than their gross similarity. Their routine features researchers, he argues, should be as aware of regulators as a difference. Seven is
ignoring context and broader social constraints. The situation that emphasizes how highly context-bound they are, this might neglect broader currents and context. Micro-level research risks spotting boundaries that exclude important macro-level factors. Number 8 is generalization problems. Number 6 is how to write various realities and explanation. How will a representative view be reached? And the last is who owns the data, reports, and who has control over data release. So, naturalistic and ethnography research are important but problematic research methods in education. Their widespread use signal their increasing acceptance as legitimate and important style of research. Thank you.
Okay, that's all from us. That's all from us. And if you have any questions, please comment on the YouTube and we will answer it. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.